John. Almost a year ago, the Pennsylvania legislature passed some not particularly lengthy, but it's actually fairly complex legislation designed to more formally identify and designate public school districts in Pennsylvania that were financially distressed. There was a prior sort of designation in that way, but this went further, and I think I don't give the legislature in Pennsylvania much credit from time to time, but they actually, I think, thought about not only do we need to identify where these problem school districts are, but we need to try to provide some kind of mechanism to help them get out of the situation that they are in, and that's what this legislation was designed to do. And the most critical piece of the legislation, in my opinion, was the creation of a position called Chief Recovery Officer. And so that was about a year ago, and then back in December of last year, our own Dave Meckley was appointed by the Secretary of Education as the Chief Recovery Officer for the City of York School District, which was and has been a financially distressed school district. I was aware that Dave was being considered for that position, but I didn't have any insight. I didn't know who was whispering in the Secretary of Education's ear, but I have to say that I thought from the get-go that Dave was and is the perfect candidate for that position. And I say that despite the fact that his training is all in engineering. And yes, I heard one clap from President John. And that, that's not a background that comes to mind for me when I think of those who need to work with, other people.
Who's going to pay for that one?
Dave has managed to overcome that. And in all seriousness, I really say that because Dave has a very, very unique, I think, and exceptional combination of things that he has done over the years. And a lot of you are familiar with that, but I believe it is a rather extraordinary combination of business experience and what I would call very active civic engagement, sort of at all levels. So the very short story is that Dave was a major shareholder, president, CEO of Flenchbaugh Engineering for about 20 years, until about the year 2000 when Flenchbaugh became a majority ESOP company, and Dave transitioned out of day-to-day responsibilities with the company, although he continued to serve on the board, and in fact is currently chairman of the board of directors of that company. And as I recall, it's been 13 years, but as I recall, after he stepped down from those responsibilities, he spent a good part of the next year, maybe 6, 7, 8 months, making very substantial progress on the honey-do list from Betsy, and I would say less substantial progress on his golf game. But as with all of my friends who sold their businesses in their early 50s, inevitably they get bored after a few months, and they're on to the next venture. And in Dave's case, that was the founding of Strategic Advantage, which is a consulting company that he formed in 2001 that focuses on privately held firms and focuses on helping those companies build a management team, senior management team, and a board structure that to not only manage the company but also create opportunities for transitions for those owners. And he's consulted with any number of companies in that capacity, and also, and just in the last 10 years, I would say, has served as interim president of 4 rather large companies in this area and in central Pennsylvania, providing service to those owners. He also serves currently on 9 boards of directors of private sector businesses. He's also been, as I say, very active in the community, both as a contributor, a financial contributor, but more importantly, sort of walking the talk. He's a former board member of the York Suburban School District. He's also a former commissioner and was president of the Board of Commissioners of Spring Garden Township. So he has actively been engaged in local government endeavors. He has served over the years on over 20 nonprofit boards and has been the chair of 6 of those nonprofit boards, including the Rotary Club of York, which, as you may know, is one of the larger Rotary clubs in the world. John the top 100? 35. Okay, 35. Please help me welcome Dave Meckley. Well, Mike opened the door. So I have to tell you that he and I were playing golf the other day, and as you do when you're playing golf, you talk about different things. And he talked about this guy who came to his office the other week. And most of you know Stock and Leader is sort of a business firm. And he said, boy, it was really unusual. I finished this, this consultation with this guy, and the guy said, how much do I owe you? And Mike said, well, it's $1,000. And he said, can I pay you in cash? And Mike said, well, I guess that's all right. And the guy reaches in his wallet, and he peels off $100 bills. He gives them to Mike, and he leaves. And that's a little bit odd, but as Mike counted the money, as it turns out, there's $1,100 in there. And he said to me, I had an ethical dilemma. Do I tell my partners? And the answer, no, I just did. This is actually my fourth Rotary presentation. My first was shortly after I joined Rotary in 1978. And doing the math, I will be slated again to do my fifth Rotary presentation in 2030, when the York Rotary Club is the 17th largest club. When I was young and thinking about what I might do as an adult, Chief Recovery Officer for the School District of the City of York was not on that list. The easy answer to the qualifications that I have to become a CRO might be based upon some business experience, serving as a president and on business boards. I've had a fair amount of nonprofit experience, which, as Mike said, includes serving on a school board. But the most accurate answer is that nothing really prepares one to be the Chief Recovery Officer for the School District of the City of York, because it is unlike any organization I've ever known. With either new presidents or individuals that are planning on buying a business, I'm frequently asked, well, how would I know how to do that? Or how would I know how to do this? And my answer to that question is the most important skill that you can have as a leader of an organization is to manage something that you know nothing about. And that is perhaps the best qualification for Chief Recovery Officer. The first day of the job, I met with the school board and I said, if I were you, I would be asking, why would the state send a guy that looks like me to the school district of the City of York? I was hoping that that would sort of be an icebreaker. It wasn't. But I wasn't only being humorous, there was a point. And I went on to say that the district has a school named after Rabbi Alexander Good, one of the four chaplains. And the four chaplains' message is one of diversity, race, gender, religion. And it is through diversity that the different ideas emerge that will create bold and innovative solutions, and therefore diversity should absolutely be a key ingredient of the recovery process. There's some factors affecting the school district of the City of York that's important for everyone to understand. The first is a number that is represented by real estate dollars per student. And so if you take in a district, all of the assessed value of real estate, doesn't matter if they're big homes, small homes, businesses, you add them all up, and you divide by the number of students, you get a number. Excluding the city district, they range in York County from $300,000 in Dover to $575,000 in suburban, with an average of $415,000. The school district of the City of York is $99,000. Poverty
or low-income families measured by eligibility for free and reduced lunch. Districts range from 17, New York suburban, West York 44, West York is 37, Hanover 44, averages about 28%, York 90%. Special education students are 27%, ELL 28%, and we estimate that there are over 160 homeless students. To get the recovery process started, an advisory committee was formed with a diverse group of 20 community members, parents, teachers, administrators. Rotarians Bob Woods, Kate Orban served on that committee, and I'm grateful for their participation. A basic process was established: construct a balanced scorecard, create alternatives to what we can do, choose a direction, and then write a recovery plan. To construct a scorecard, you need to wrestle with what does success look like? In the specific definition under Act 141, to designate a district as distressed is a financial formula, but it is clearly more than that. We came up with the following factors that work together. Number one, safe and healthy learning environment. Number two, sound effective education. And number three, sustainable finances. The goal was to create a balanced scorecard that tells us where we are, and perhaps more importantly, where we want to go and how are we doing. The district has about 7,500 students, but since 2007, parents have voted with their feet. The number of charter school students has increased 140%, so that as we sit today, 34% of the 7,500 students are not in district schools. If there's one overall metric, that would be the one, and it is absolutely trending in the wrong direction. Achievement test scores range in the 30 to 40% range for district schools, compared with the state average of around 80%. A safe and healthy learning environment in a school district is often measured by disciplinary incidents. The data from the district showed this trending down, remarkably so. During teacher interviews and parent interviews, I heard allegations of pressure to get the data to support improvement. Rotarian David Polk surveyed district teachers and parents and charter students who listed safety and discipline as a major issue. With all of this information, including the survey data and including judicial incidents, which are the number of times policemen come to district schools, I can say that the district has significant problems. As far as finance is concerned, not only is there currently an annual budget and cash deficit of $4 million, in 4 years, if nothing changes, it's projected to be $20 million per year on a $120 million budget. Digging deeper, the 34% of students who have chosen to leave the district are the most significant factor. Without a complicated explanation, the current state tuition formula negatively impacts a district disproportionately when a student leaves a district. Said another way, if students come back to the district, there would be a significant positive financial impact. Like many urban districts, losses have been financed with long-term debt. So debt is nearly 100% of net book value assets and 100% of annual revenue. What this balanced scorecard produced was the first objective overall analysis that said the district is failing. The scorecard also proposed long-term measurable goals so that progress could be gauged. The advisory committee then started to talk about multiple options. York County Community Foundation made an early presentation about 100% charter schools. I'm grateful to the foundation. They produced a strong, thoughtful, and compelling case for 100% charter. But more importantly, they produced an out-of-the-box idea that got on the table and started people thinking in very, very different ways. We talked about consolidation, talked about government legislative change, and an internal reform plan started to emerge. In order to make any option work, changes in the cost structure are absolutely required. Staffing costs are the single greatest line item, but remember my comments about the impact of students leaving the district, or in fact coming back to the district. For any recovery plan to work, the district needs to attract current charter students back to the district. How do you attract students back? Safe and healthy learning environment, sound effective education, sustainable business, finance results. Any plan must have all of those components. So let's look at the 100% charter option. There are charters that are high performing and there are charters that are not. The Renaissance program in Philadelphia was perhaps the best model that we found that could work in York. Philadelphia takes the worst performing schools, building by building, and establishes a short list of qualified high performing charters, and then allows school advisory councils to select the specific charter provider for the building to engage the parents and community for ownership of the decision. Make no mistake, there absolutely are examples of buildings with the same demographics as York that have been taken over as conversion charter schools and as little as 2 years increased academic performance to state average. Potential charter providers are selected by the district with an objective process that looks at their track record as charter providers, with a performance contract that holds the charter schools accountable for academics and behavior and discipline. Gradual performance can be achieved. Almost sounds very familiar to how a business manages a supply chain. The finances work for the 100% charter because the contracts with charter providers have a net tuition rate that will balance the budget. But again, the numbers work better with the more students in the district. Concerns? Academic performance data for the current charters here in York indicate that they're not working any better than the district. York Academy aside, no data has been collected for York Academy. It's never been done as a 100% charter for a district. All those are valid concerns. The internal plan emerged. Act 141 created an awareness and sort of a classic burning platform and a sense of urgency. It also created a constructive alliance between the teachers and the administration to work together. A true internal transformation plan was constructed that is site-based, has a series of changes to improve academic performance and safety and discipline. The finances work because of wage and fringe benefit concessions to balance the budget. But again, the specifics depend on how many students come back to the district. There were concerns with this plan. Why now? Where have you been? If you haven't succeeded over the past 20 years, why would we believe you could do it now? Valid concerns. These two options seem mutually exclusive until at one of the advisory committee meetings, a committee member asked, would the union agree to the same standards of performance that were put forth as charter school contract performance agreements? Meaning that if performance was not increased, the district would charterize buildings that did not meet the performance standards. Union leadership agreed. And that started a discussion of a hybrid option that led to the current recovery plan. So what is in the recovery plan? In short, it overlays a system of accountability to align the interests of the teachers, administration, and support staff in the district. It provides measurable long-term goals for performance with clear consequences. Wages for all employees are linked to performance with a goal of attracting students back to the district. The plan outlines potential annual decreases in compensation for all employees if the continued migration to charter schools continues. For teachers, in each of the next 4 years, decreases could reach 10%, 10%, 12%, 10%. Administrators actually have higher decreases. If the migration to local charter schools if the migration declines slightly, these decreases would be 5% and then 2% annually. But if migration is reversed, pay increases could occur. These are the changes that would, and also fringe benefits are included, changes in benefits to reduce costs. The formula to expend the increased revenues, either from students coming back to the district or from changes in state or local funding, allocates the money in 4 specific areas. Number 1, reestablishing a positive cash balance. Number 2, decreasing the student-teacher ratio. Number 3, investments in instructional support. And 4, wages and benefits. If the goals for performance standards are not met, measured building by building, 1 or more buildings could be turned over to a high-performing charter school with the same performance contracts. Specific front-end investments to improve education and discipline include a cornerstone program designed to quickly identify and remove the small percentage of very disruptive students and move them to a separate, regular classroom where education will continue along with behavioral skills. This is a significant impediment in urban schools. For those of you who attended the Community Foundation's annual meeting about a month ago, the recovery plan is consistent with the message that I heard. The public school district of the future will be a gatekeeper for who educates our students, with a focus on setting performance standards and then objectively selecting the best provider. So where are we? An executive summary was presented to the public. Formal recovery plan has been submitted to the school board. The actual plan is a public document. You can access it on the district website. The teachers union, with a close vote, has approved the plan. The support union approved the plan with a near unanimous vote. The school board last week approved the plan with a unanimous vote. And the Secretary of Education is expected to approve the plan shortly. The final key element of the plan is taking the recovery plan and translating some of the key provisions into a new union contract. And while the union has agreed to a general vote, or has had a general vote to approve the plan, there is a new union contract needs to have the specific provisions, and without that, the internal provisions of the recovery plan cannot be implemented. Recent newspaper editorial said, "Be careful what you ask for. Now teachers must deliver." The editorial was spot on. And in general, I'd like to compliment press coverage on the recovery process, and specific Angie Mason, who I think is here today, on doing really a superb job, and by that I mean diligent, fair, accurate reporting. I do believe that the recovery plan will provide a solid internal plan for transforming the district, and with the accountability that has been established, I'm confident that the district will meet the goals with a combination of internally run schools and charter schools if necessary. I'm a strong proponent and believer in public education. Having said that, I would predict that if the current compensation system, the amount of compensation and no linkage to performance, stays in place in Pennsylvania, other districts will follow the city schools. think about this. Consolidation may occur when other districts face the same issues as the city, and they come to the city for help. As districts evolve, a one-answer solution for all education will become less effective. We need to recognize the specific needs of students in the district, find service methods that provide the specific needs that can improve performance and compensate them accordingly. There's a social justice issue that challenges the logic of our current funding formula with regard to urban districts. Changes in public education funding should be considered, and I compliment Bill Schwartz with his specific recommendation outlined in the recent political campaign. I'm not necessarily supporting that specific idea, but getting an idea on the table to have dialogue and coming up with something better, I think, is exactly what we need. My personal experience has been challenging, exhilarating, and rewarding. More public than I'm accustomed, and I now worry about press coverage and which of my mistakes will be in the newspaper and on TV. Prior to becoming CRO, my community service has been a volunteer. As Chief Recovery Officer, I'm officially a state employee without benefits, but compensated for my time. If the state granted an extension on the recovery plan, a friend of mine said, "So, overtime pays for results." I think a good definition of a friend is one who conveys an important point with a splash of humor. And to be honest, reconciling community service with compensation has been somewhat difficult. A few years ago, a small group of community leaders, including Rotarians Dan Waldersdorf, Jeff Hines, Patty Sturp, started a 4 chaplains permanent endowment fund at the Community Foundation for York City Dollars for Scholars, providing college scholarships for York City High students. This time I'd like to ask Brian Tate to come forward as a representation of the Community Foundation, and would like to present a check to Brian to double the 4 chaplains permanent endowment fund in recognition of the Foundation's constructive role in the recovery process, and as a reminder to me that community service is about giving, not compensation.